is Trump is employing a time-tested legal strategy, which is stalling. You know, in the legal world, when you're a plaintiff, you're trying to get money from another human being. That's one of the hardest things to do. You're trying to get another human being hand money over to you. When you are able to delay litigation, you wear down the other side.
Lawflip, objection, Your Honor. Turn the game upside down. Lawflip, objection, Your Honor. Turn the game upside down. Lawflip, objection, Your Honor. Turn the game upside down. Lawflip, objection, Your Honor. Turn the game upside down.
All right, we're back. Welcome to Lawflip. What's up, Josh?
Another start to the week, another Monday morning.
There we go. All right, so we got some pretty good feedback so far on the podcast. I got a really successful business guy that I know. He wrote me the nicest message. He said, Benjy, I just randomly came across the podcast. I'm 1/3 of the way through it, and I don't even have words. Your confidence to put yourself out there is, I don't have words, like so inspiring. You're an impressive guy, going to listen to the rest of it shortly. And I was like, okay, that's nice. This guy,
It's a good start.
you know, this guy runs like a really, really successful business. I think he has upwards of like 100+ employees. And the fact that he even took time out of his day to listen and then to give that type of feedback completely unsolicited, you just don't know who's going to listen to the content that you put out. You really don't. You just, I remember when I first started putting out content, I just felt like it made sense to do. And I just didn't focus on who's listening. And then you just get feedback like that. And it helps you feel good about continuing to put time and energy and money into content. So that was cool. How was your weekend?
It was good. I was busy again, worked all weekend, but I got some time.
You're a workaholic.
It's my favorite thing to do.
Yeah. I'm similar, but I got the wife and 3 kids, so we're busy.
Right.
And so whenever we're not working, we're definitely jam-packed with stuff. They're 3 very different ages, 10, 6, and 10, or now 11 months. So it's not like they all could be happily doing one activity. I mean, sometimes they can. Like like this weekend, we were in the pool and jacuzzi and everybody was in.
Right.
But like for the most part, there's naps for the little one. There's all sorts of,
right.
There's
different nap schedules. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the older ones don't nap at all, although I wish they would sometimes. But, we were at the field again. My little one, he hit 2 home runs in coach pitch. I may have I was coaching third base. He probably should have stopped at like second or third base on 1 or 2 of these, but I sent him all the way through. And like with little kids,
right.
They're not going to be able to throw the ball and get somebody. But after these 2 home runs, I walked to the sidelines and all the parents are looking at me. It's like this thing
right.
in Little League. They look at you and you're like, good job and congratulations. And it's just so happy for you. I'm so happy. It's a kid's pitch. These kids are 6 years old. We're just all talking about what is it where you just put so much effort and stuff into these kids. And when they do something like hit a baseball, which in reality is, I guess, not that big of a deal, but in our world,
major deal.
In our world, it's like Super Bowl, And so it's great. It's there's so many responsibilities that come with being a parent. There's so many things that you have to sacrifice. Well, you don't have to, you choose to if you feel like you want to be a good parent. And, our whole weekend is dictated around how do we get these kids to have a good quality time, avoid screen time to the extent that you can, get them to do meaningful activities and fun activities. When you're out there and you're seeing your kid hit the ball and he hits it hard, you're just so excited. So anyway, that's on the home front. It was a good weekend. And then we have a lot of stuff going on at the firm. I'm busy, been creating a lot of systems. I spent a lot of time on these things called standard operating procedures, which people have been talking about for many, many years. When I first ever heard about them, I was like, that sounds annoying. That sounds like this just it's too much. But the more that I've focused on them, the more they've really helped me. So I'm focusing a lot on that. I hired a new attorney for my firm. I've hired an attorney before at a previous firm I had with a partner. But this is my first time hiring an attorney on my own with my firm and directly where they're actually working in my firm and they're starting in a week from now. And I've done a lot of stuff in business, but for whatever reason, I had a little bit of a limiting belief around bringing on an attorney with the cost and the responsibility and all that stuff. Really excited for that. So I'll give you guys an update when I have a bigger update. And I want to move just to some news stories that I thought were interesting. So have you heard of this guy, Jay Shetty, Josh?
Yeah. Me being in the music space, he's
Uh-huh.
interviewed a lot of rappers and musicians, Alicia Keys, the independent artist Russ. He had a great interview with him.
Oh, I actually remember seeing that. Yeah, Russ
Yeah,
is cool. Russ is like, I'm not sure what race or ethnicity Russ is. I started hearing his songs, and I think he's an independent guy, right?
yeah, he's super independent. He kind of was able to. He's Italian to answer your question, but
Okay.
he
Not
did a.
many Italian rappers.
There
You,
are,
you,
but just in the limelight of things. But
yeah.
he had a good blueprint to go independent. He has a lot of the strong viewpoints. You either like him or you don't, with kind of
Yeah.
his personality. But yeah, with having Russ on Jay Shetty, with his very polarizing personality, he kind of was calm, cool, calm, collected, and he had a lot of like really cool insights. And
Oh, that's
everybody that
cool.
I've been able to watch on his podcast they do those deep dives.
Yeah. So I've been aware of Jay Shetty for a while just because he was like this, like, good looking, smart, really his voice is like very calming,
Put you to sleep.
kind of like, yeah. And he was like this monk type character that he's kind of like that new meditation, kind of like,
New wave,
positive,
spiritual.
spiritual, yeah, all that stuff. But like, I'm kind of a BS detector. Like if I see somebody, I'm kind of like, what are they selling?
Right.
What's the real
My
story
master
here? But
class,
like,
my
but
guru.
he got past me. Like he was like, I was like, he's interviewing all the celebrities, the Obamas, the this, the that. And they had this expose, I don't know, where he kind of got like pseudo canceled, where they basically said that, celebrities and everybody is calling him amazing and they pay thousands for his guidance. But what exactly do they get from this self-help guru with an iffy origin story? And so they basically, the big points of this article were that he has celebrity connections and cultural influence. That's well taken. Like both of us know who he
Right.
is and
He's turned
all
into a
that.
celebrity in the celebrity
Yeah.
realm.
Then he's got like best-selling author and meditation advocate. That makes sense. Like he's been writing these books and Think Like a Monk, 8 Rules of Love. And then there came this story, the questions over his origin story and credentials. And they also talked about how he potentially has lifted some of his work from other people without attributing it. And then there was also basically, I saw even some lady on TikTok where like he's just becoming like a salesperson and one of those people that has an academy and he's selling it up. And so it's just amazing to see, with the internet, you have the rise like he has, and then you have people that are scrutinizing you. This whole thing came about, actually, I think his girlfriend or his ex-girlfriend called him out. Like he said that he was in this place for 3 years of his life and supposedly it wasn't true. And yeah, I just, I was listening. I have a hard time with meditation. It's something that I know I need to work on, but I went into the Calm app and his voice starts speaking to me like an angel. And I'm listening to him and I'm like, yeah, this guy, he's calm. And I was wondering while I'm listening to him, he has these daily, like 7-10 minute meditations. And somebody who creates content, it is hard to create any consistent daily content. And I'm like, and it's one thing to, if your stuff is like news driven, but like if it's like ideas and original content, like this is hard. How is he doing this? And then to see, unfortunately, that it seems like he's potentially lifted this stuff from other people. I don't know if it's true, but it seems like people are on to him and they're looking for him to fail for
Yeah,
some reason.
they're looking for
And
blood. Yeah.
yeah, they're looking for blood here. So I guess we'll see what he does. I just saw, as I looked up the article, which was on, I think it was The Guardian. Yeah, it was The Guardian. There's legal disclaimers. And so, it just sort of brings about the discussion about authenticity and then presenting yourself as one thing. And that's my whole business as a lawyer. People make claims about everything. You hear people say things all the time. And I've seen people in my life. There's a person that I got the chance to live with at this building while my house was under repair. And he is the biggest loudmouth about real estate and he drives all these fancy cars and everything. And he just talks a lot of stuff online. And really, he calls people brokies and losers and all that stuff. And then I see him, somehow I saw that there is a deposition of him online. and he got crushed. I mean, because the thing is that you don't get tested when you're talking online. Nobody's checking you, right? But when you have a lawyer who's cross-examining you under penalty of perjury, and you're supposed to tell the truth, it's a lot harder to spin that BS. Somebody like Jay Shetty, he's probably going to file some sort of action. If he doesn't, people are going to say, oh, well, maybe he truly was stealing this content. Maybe his stuff isn't. But if he does bring the lawsuit, he's going to have to answer all these questions under penalty of perjury. I guess we'll see. We shall see. So the next thing I want to talk about is Trump is employing a time-tested legal strategy, which is stalling. In the legal world, when you're a plaintiff, you're trying to get money from another human being. That's one of the hardest things to do. You're trying to get another human being hand money over to you. So when I was first getting into litigation after I passed the bar, I worked on a case where these 5 brothers from India, they had a partnership. It was basically an international partnership where they were developing real estate. When I just passed the bar, I was working on this case with these brothers who built a real estate empire. And one of the brothers was sort of holding the key to the castle. A lot of the stuff was in his name. And so the other brothers were trying to sue him, including one of them, which was our client. And we actually got a big judgment for him, but he appealed it. And this whole battle has been going on for 20 plus years. The judgment just came out again. They had to retry the case. The same case that I worked on 15 years ago, it just came out. It was one of the biggest verdicts ever. It was like a multi-billion-dollar verdict from these brothers against another brother. And what came out in the discussion was how that brother used stalling as a tactic. And he even was dangling to his lawyers bounties. Like, if you're able to delay this for a certain period of time, allegedly, he was giving them hundreds of thousands of dollars or extra bonuses to just literally delay the litigation. And it is a very powerful tool. When you are able to delay litigation, you wear down the other side, because the other side has to spend money. They have to hire attorneys. They have to go at you. And if you aren't holding the bag and the other side is the rich person, the other side has money, it's very hard to withstand. You have to keep fighting. You have to keep having attorneys go after it. And so that is what everybody's talking about with Trump. And I've always known that that's what he's trying to do with all these criminal trials. He is trying to push these things far out enough to where if he can just get to be president, he feels like these things are going to go away. And to a large extent, he's not going to be, these criminal prosecutions are not going to be taking place during the presidency. So there's this big discussion about, are any of these trials going to take place beforehand? And it seems like he's doing a pretty effective job of just kicking them out. And so everybody's wondering, how does he manage to navigate through multiple legal battles while eyeing the presidency? I think he's just given his lawyers the go-ahead and the directive, delay these things by all ways necessary. And so is he exercising his legal rights to a fair trial to have more time? It's not crazy. I mean, he has so many legal battles that he needs time to prepare. His lawyers need time to prepare. I think the overarching theme is, it's pretty clear he's trying to delay these until after the election. So, people are wondering, is it legitimate? As long as he is going through the legal channels and the courts are hearing his positions on things, he's allowed to delay these things. I guess it raises the question about fairness and efficiency of the legal system, especially in handling high-profile cases like these. But I am not totally convinced we are going to see any of these real cases where he can see jail time between now and the presidency. Maybe one, but I don't see, There's only so many things that could happen between now and November. So anyway, I want to talk about Larry H. Parker. So if you grew up, especially in LA, you would see Larry H. Parker's commercials. He died, unfortunately, just recently. And it's one of those weird things where, there's not that many super, super famous attorneys. We have this new segment where we're walking around the streets asking people, have you heard of any famous attorneys? And there's not that many people know, but everybody knew Larry H. Parker. He always came on and he would say, we'll fight for you. And he developed a lot of the advertising models and the marketing models. And even though he was not necessarily looked at as the greatest attorney, but he was looked at as, hey, this guy does personal injury and he's there, and he made himself such a brand name, such a household name that everybody would call him. And it made me think, like, who are the people that I'm watching these days that are interesting, or that have, obviously called Jacob, who we've had on the podcast, Jacob and Ronnie. He's all over the place with billboards and everything. I think that there's this one kid, I'm not sure his name, but it's called injuryneeds.com and callmylawyer.com. I think his name is something Yerushalami. This guy basically sits in his office just like I am right now, and he puts on speaker. I don't know if they're necessarily real calls or reenactments or whatever, but he basically lets his clients know how much money he settled the case for, and they have a great reaction, and he's gone viral for it a ton of times. It's a really good way of basically showing people what you do, that you're getting good results and all that. It's not exactly my style, but I think it's very effective. The other person we are watching is that guy that you turned me on to, Top Dog.
Top Dog Law.
Yeah, Top Dog Law. And he's kind of national, but he's based in where? Ohio?
Philadelphia.
Oh, Philadelphia, yeah. And he's filming rap videos. So people just don't understand that when you don't work for another law firm and you have your own law firm, you got to make it happen, and you got to differentiate yourself. And most people that I watch online, whether they're hiring social media consultants or they're just, doing what they know to do, like when you post things like, I got this result, and it's just like, I got this result, and it's just like a post on social media, it's not that memorable. And that's why people are always like, they question, like, what am I doing this off the wall content where I talk about news stories, where I talk about different things, and I'm maybe not as formal as a lawyer, quote unquote, should be. But I guess it's not who I want to be. I don't want to be a stuffy person that's just sort of in a suit and, talking a way that I should be. And I think when people come to me, I put out this energy, and the type of people that come to me are generally more the right type of energy of the people that I want to deal with. So, and it's just different. It's unique, and people like different and unique. They do. And so anyway, it got me thinking once I saw that Larry H. Parker died, because he was practicing, I think, for like 50 years. He did tons of commercials, tons of billboards. People said that, his advertising detracted from the professionalism of the legal profession. It's the same stuff that we're dealing with today. We're not sure how he passed away, but RIP to Larry H. Parker. He was a legend. And next is the Aaron Rodgers. So Aaron Rodgers shared, allegedly, false Sandy Hook conspiracy theories. So Aaron Rodgers is one of the great football players of all time. Quarterback, was on the Packers, and then he got traded to the Jets. He's not one to shy away from controversy. He went to Berkeley, which is, anybody can get into anywhere when they're a great athlete, but Berkeley is known as one of those really like higher education institutions. And he just seems to say things that are not totally grounded in reality. I have a hard time with anybody with the Sandy Hook stuff, because as a parent, the underlying tragedy that occurred is so devastating. If anything happens to my kids, it drives me crazy. If God forbid somebody found themselves in the shoes of a Sandy Hook parent, and then to have people claim that it wasn't real, like Alex Jones did, that's where the legal system, I appreciate it, that they were able to completely rock Alex Jones. Now, he may be still making maneuvers and getting out of it and filing bankruptcy, but I appreciated the fact that lawyers went at him from every single angle. And so Aaron Rodgers, he didn't say anything new, to my understanding. Basically, what happened is he got floated as a vice presidential candidate for Bobby Kennedy Jr., and which, again, like the chance of RFK Jr. actually winning is zero. But I don't even know why we're talking about his potential vice president candidates. But anyway, it was floated that Aaron Rodgers was potentially going to be a VP candidate for Robert Kennedy Jr. And his father was, I believe, an attorney general during JFK's time, his brother. And so basically, because he's been floated, Aaron Rodgers, as a VP for Robert Kennedy Jr., now everybody's out to go find dirt on Aaron Rodgers. And so CNN reported that back 7 or 8 years ago, Aaron Rodgers basically mimicked the type of comments that Alex Jones made, which was that this was a false flag operation, supposedly that these kids were fake. I mean, I don't know how anybody could believe stuff like this. Sometimes I want to be the type of person that could believe in a conspiracy theory, but it's just so hard for me to. But then again, I almost believe that Jay Shetty, is completely who he was.
Right.
And so I don't know.
It could be, and that's
Yeah.
just how the internet is. It's just like
Yeah.
they're so good at storytelling and throwing whatever light they want to have on the story that
Yeah.
you can believe things, and then next thing you know, like he's completely wrong, you're completely wrong.
That's true too. And sometimes these quote unquote conspiracy theories, whether they're about COVID, whether about other things, you look at 5 years later and they weren't as far off as you thought they were.
Right.
People that were talking about Epstein Island 10 years
Right.
ago,
Alex
I
Jones broke
think,
that story.
yeah, I know.
You got
That's a,
one thing right,
that's a tough part. So anyway, so Aaron Rodgers quickly put out a statement, basically distancing himself from those comments. He didn't deny that he said them originally. He just said that he's always believed that this was a real story. I think that the difference between Alex Jones and Aaron Rodgers is, first of all, Aaron Rodgers legitimately now has hundreds of millions of dollars, and he's not judgment proof. I mean, if he got a judgment against him, he would have to pay it or deal with it. Alex Jones, he's filed for bankruptcy, and I think he did have money, but somehow he's been able to avoid having to pay it. I think I don't know what his true opinions are, but he basically smartened up and knew that he didn't want to get into this whole Alex Jones territory of questioning Sandy Hook parents. But anybody who's in that world of questioning whether somebody is real, whether these kids were real that died, is sickening to me. And I hate, I'm just, have to say, I'm not a gun fan. And I will say, with all the crime and stuff in Los Angeles, it's the first time I've become less opposed to having a gun, but I still hate guns. I hate the existence of them. And these stories where kids are getting killed in schools is one of the most horrifying things, trends that I've seen in my lifetime. And I wish there would be something more we could do to end this madness. So, Real Housewives. You ever catch Real Housewives?
At 3 a.m. when it's the reruns.
Yeah. So I don't watch a lot of TV. When I have any time to consume content, it's usually TikTok in these short little time frames. But my wife, that's the one guilty pleasure on TV she has. We mostly watch Shark Tank, but we'll throw in Real Housewives, and it's good. It's decent. It's watching madness in these people's lives, and it's not. I wouldn't say it's the healthiest thing to watch, but
you keep watching it. They set it up.
You keep
good.
watching.
Once it's on, you watch an episode or two.
Yeah, so there was this lawsuit filed by a former Real Housewife of New York star, Leah McSweeney. Didn't actually see this girl on the show, this woman on the show. People don't often realize that these are really employees of Bravo, or these production companies, and they have the same rights and responsibilities of other employees. But you look at them as just these wealthy women that are on TV. In reality, they are employees. They're getting paid, and they have their rights and responsibilities as employees. So the big question was, should reality TV producers be allowed to control and influence the personal lives and well-being of their cast members for the sake of entertainment? So the lawsuit talked about how they were engaged in psychological warfare by pressuring her to drink alcohol despite her history of sobriety and mental health issues. And while that sounds crazy, hey, you have to be responsible for your own sobriety and your own health, that's not my take on it. My take is if you know somebody has a history of sobriety issues, which they definitely understood, they need to take that into account and take care of their employee. It's not just, yes, you want to exploit to the extent that you can the entertainment value that these shows have to offer. And yes, you need to get people doing crazy things to get the ratings up, but not at the expense of their health. And, what is the line there? I mean, how do you draw the line there? It's tough as a producer. I can't, and being an employer is tough in general. I mean, trying to balance these lines is seemingly sometimes impossible, but that's the cost of doing business. If you're going to exploit these people, you're going to have to be very careful how you do it. You put these people on television, and that this person is struggling with sobriety, and you have situations where they're constantly being fed free alcohol and pushed in their face. Now, again, it's just an allegation. It's just the lawsuit's been filed. We don't know if she's conjuring this up or if there's anything real there. But she basically claims the producers manipulated her into relapsing for the sake of creating dramatic television moments, leading to, hospitalization and severe emotional distress. And I could say, as somebody who's struggled with different behaviors, and thank God, these days I'm doing really well, and I don't, but like, just for instance, if I imagine myself like put onto a reality show and I've struggled with food and eating too much, right? And then literally, it's not like they have like normal meals. They start like literally putting like a buffet everywhere you turn. Like, that might be tough, and that's not cool for an employer to do. They're going to argue that they were just simply creating compelling content, that she understood the situation she was going into. She's a big girl. She understands that there are a bunch of other people. She's going to have to deal with alcohol and drugs being around her, and it's her choice. She was willingly going into this. So it'll be an interesting lawsuit to see how things go. It'll be interesting to see, what the public thinks in terms of the ethical implications of reality TV. I don't think that people care. I think generally people want to see entertaining TV, and they kind of like to see people fall apart. And that's sad. That's a sad commentary on who we are as human beings. But I think people like to see that. But I think, the legal safeguards that we have in place for employees, they're important for situations like this, because the tendency in reality TV and in employment is to push those people to get as much out of them as possible. And that's where you have this blurred line between entertainment and exploitation and reality TV, that you need to have safeguards in place. This lawsuit may impact the future of reality TV and practices and the welfare. And the last story that I want to get to is this law firm, Bryan Cave, Layton and Paisner, just cut dozens of staffers in their latest layoff. First of all, I've only ever heard of this law firm as Bryan Cave. And I always wonder, like, how did that happen where this 4-name law firm is only referred to as 2 names? Like, how annoyed would you be if you were Layton or Paisner, and like every time people referred to the law firm, they said Bryan Cave and they didn't have your name in it? I just like a random fact. There's like at least 4 name partners, and 2 of which don't get publicly named. Anyway, it's a large law firm, and several other law firms have been laying off both lawyers and admin staff. But this particular law firm, Bryan Cave, they laid off not just this round of employees, but I guess another 47 professionals globally just last May. And it's said that at that time, the last layoff, they said it mainly affected secretarial and administrative positions, and they cited excess capacity following a comprehensive review of support ratios. I think that a lot of that has to do with artificial intelligence, and it also referred to a lot of transactional work. And so they didn't really say this, but a lot of secretarial or admin work is now truly getting replaced by AI. So if you used to be a lawyer that would say, hey, paralegal, come into the office, let me give you some direction on the first draft of a set of documents. That's what people would do. They would have a maybe somebody who's getting paid $100,000+ as a paralegal come in, or have a call, or even have a Zoom before artificial intelligence came in, and say, hey, we want to have a draft of this transaction. We want to have this document here. We want to have that document here. We want to we used to use that template, from the Jones case. Let's use that template from the Jones case and use this template from the Smith case, and put together a draft for me to review. And then the paralegal would charge for their time. And then they'd give a draft back to the attorney, and then it would go back and forth, and then they would do their thing and eventually get it done. Now, if you go onto ChatGPT, I do it right now. You go to ChatGPT and you hit F5 on your Mac keyboard, which is the microphone. So you say, hey, ChatGPT, create templates using this template right here, and from the Jones matter, use this template from the Smith matter, and modify the first paragraph, modify this entire agreement to be, now we're really talking about Andrew Jones or Andrew Brown, and change this entire thing and shoot it back to me. You don't even need to wait for your paralegal to go back and do the work. You can literally spit it out in a couple minutes. I don't see how the big law model is going to stay the same. There's going to be these shifts that happen with AI, and with technology, and we're seeing it, and I think we're going to see more of it. And we are going on to the Smith Law legal tip. So I want to talk to you about 8 mental health issues that you as an employee need to be aware of. In California, the workplace is a realm where understanding and accommodation for mental health aren't just encouraged, they're enshrined in law. So here are 8 specific mental health conditions that are protected where you should receive support and consideration as an employee. 1, depression, clinical depression. So your battles with the depression, they're recognized, and employers need to work through these issues with you. Number 2, bipolar disorder. Number 3, anxiety disorders. Number 4, autism spectrum disorders. 5, PTSD. 6, OCD. 7, schizophrenia. 8, learning disabilities such as dyslexia and other learning disabilities that you experience in the workplace. So in California, these conditions and more, not just these lists, this is just a list of 8 that I created, are not just acknowledged, but protected, ensuring that your mental health journey is met with understanding and support in the workplace. If you're having any issues in the workplace with any of those issues or any other mental health disorders, contact us at Smith Law. We can be reached at 1-818-839-9700. Contact us at www.thesmithlawcorp.com. Everybody should be subscribing and sharing our podcast, sharing our TikTok, sharing our social media, subscribing to our newsletters. Okay, Josh, it's been wonderful. Anything else we should talk about before we sign off here?
Let us know what you think. That's what YouTube's for. There's a comment section after you subscribe, and let us know what you like. Let us know what you want to hear. Anything else,
Yeah. Okay. All right. Sounds good. We will see you next time, Lawflip.